Okay, having some issues with the stream, but that's fine. We will get back into it. Hopefully, people will find their way back in. So, I'm just going to keep on going. Hopefully, people will filter back in. So, let's take a look, and we're just going to do a bit of a review on really where we stand. Probably going to keep out of Unreal Engine 5 because I think that may have killed the stream, or it's that my net connection just keeps dying. Anyway, let's get back into it. So, let's just kind of use this static, hopefully low, low processing power version of Blender. Hopefully this will work. So when we are talking about really where we stand in terms of the project, I want to talk about a couple of the next steps we're really going to have. And basically, there aren't going to be any new releases anytime soon, simply because Unreal Engine 5 isn't really ready to go. A lot of the issues with the initial rollout, none of which are particularly backbreaking or make it unusable or anything, but all of those are kind of to the point where we need to clean those up. I haven't really had a chance to do that. I do have some folks who are more Unreal expert than I certainly am, who hopefully will be able to take a review around a lot of that. But those aren't really ready to go as of right now. So that's why we're not really going to have any releases for the time being. Also, as we take a look inside of the land and also inside of World of Motion, where we currently find ourselves, in fact, let me make it a little bit more textured so we can make this a little bit more accurate. All right, this should just be up in a second. There's going to be a lot of work, even if a lot has already been done, a whole lot until we actually are going to get it live and completely ready to go for release. A lot of what I was really able to do at this point is because I am kind of good at the architectural side. That's really where my focus is. It's really where my interest is. There are going to be a lot of character work and animal models, and then all the programming and everything that's going to take quite a bit of time. That's kind of why I really hopped into the land in the first place, because I knew that I could rip through a whole bunch of it in a pretty short period of time. So why don't we just take a look at where we currently stand. Now, where we are, what I'm going to be showing you here is, of course, without lighting. It's very much work in progress, but a lot of it will give you a good indication of where we currently stand. So we're just going to go scene by scene. So obviously this wall isn't really there, but this is where you would go from the outside lobby area. And you would come in directly up through here. So as you can see, these are going to be all the footprints for that section. I haven't really programmed that in, but that is at least placed, and we'll be able to have that animated. As we move to the left, this is where the two cavemen are going to be located. Here we have, again, pretty early-ish, but, you know, it's kind of mostly done, version of the raft scene. We have a whole lot of work to go with a lot of the character models and animals in the bazaar scene. So this is where you're going to have the magic carpet, the elephant, the donkey, the camel, all those different animals. And I'm starting to collect those models. They just haven't really been placed. I'm probably going to end up putting those directly inside of Unreal. The next scene is going to be the history of the wheel. Again, all the character models aren't really in there, but the texturing, most of the modeling for the core parts are done. A lot of the other models and props and things like that, I'm actually going to be able to put from kind of stock assets from ancient civilizations, and I'll do that directly inside of Unreal when we do actually get to that point. Then we have our first of the kind of mini speed tunnels where we're going to have this like gobo effect projected on all of those walls. This does not look particularly good without the lighting on, but this is the Egyptian screen. We currently haven't really begun work on those moving screens. This is just a screen cap, obviously from Martin's video, right in the upper left-hand corner. Then the pagoda. We have the ancient Roman section. This is where the centaur is going to be. For whatever reason, it does not appear that we actually have the the large screens that are going to be on the top there. I have to say those may just be hidden. We have the Trojan horse, which is so dark you can barely even see it on the actual ride, so you're definitely not going to be able to see the kind of quick modeling on that quite as much. We have the various chariots, and the very fancy chariot is still very much underway. I'm also going to need to add a whole bunch of columns around the edge there as well. We have the wonderful, truly remarkable sea serpent model. It really is looking incredible. Just to be clear, I did not do this. It was by one of my modeling experts, and it really is looking fantastic. So thank you again for that. All right. Hey Foxy, welcome. So we had a little bit of a stream issue before. Hopefully some folk are managing to find their way back in. We have the Mona Lisa and Da Vinci scene. You can very clearly see where I actually got some stock assets. World of Motion is really the first time I've finally been able to use some stock assets, which certainly saves a heck of a lot of time. So we have that for the chair. I did not actually repaint the Mona Lisa, I just found that online. And of course we have the flying machine, which is also a free asset I found, which is really fantastic because I did not really want to have to model this. But this is a really nicely done model. And then there are going to be 4 or 5 character models I'm definitely going to have to insert in here. We have the hot air balloon, another stock asset I was able to find, fortunately. And then we're going to have the people inside of the window. Again, this is just pretty much sketched in right now. Now the first scene where I really put a whole lot of work into it, and what's really nice is I actually had the blueprints for this, which is really, really nice. Yeah, you're right. I probably should have just repainted the Mona Lisa, Chrissy. May as well. I mean, it's not that much work I need to do for World of Motion. So this one I actually had the blueprints for the steam coach. Again, there are going to be a couple of character models we have to put in here, but this is created basically directly overlaid from the original blueprints, which is really, really nice to have. So you can see there's quite a bit of just detail I can put in there. Really nice individual suspension posts and everything. Really happy with how this is coming out. And gonna have to figure out how we do the projection screen stuff up there. Next we have the steamboat scene. Again, also directly from the blueprints, so again, a pretty decent level of detail. Still some work to be done. There are going to be little cutouts that are going to be in each of these windows that kind of spin around in 360s, so I'm definitely going to have to build that, but otherwise, fair bit of work actually completed at this point. All right. The section over here, this is where I think a bunch of these stage coaches are going to be. Haven't really done much of any work on that. Hopefully I can just find some stagecoach models. But what I really do find interesting is if I go over to the side, this is really what I find so remarkable about World of Motion. Let's ignore the fact that this is not actually... ignore me. There we go. Now it's not see-through. Isn't that nice? One of the really nice things I have about World of Motion is that they have all these little side scenes that aren't really meant to even be looked at or noticed in any way, but they still built them out anyway. So you have this whole fort directly across. It's almost completely unlit. You can barely see it, but I was able to find blueprints for this, so I was able to build it out, which is really nice. The next scene that took me forever to actually create, just endless amounts of work, again, fortunately from blueprints, is the steam engine. Certainly took a while, but it is pretty accurate to what like an 1850s, 1860s American steam engine actually looked like at that point. Again, looks a whole lot better with actual lighting turned on, but for at least the initial texturing work, not too bad. Union Pacific, etc., etc. Should probably make sure it actually lines up on the rails, but I can deal with that later. Thank you, Grayson. Appreciate it. Yep, I am spending a heck of a lot of time in Blender and then a whole lot of time in Unreal to actually kind of make it more interactive. All right, next, this is Looks like I haven't actually had the tree here. This is where the basically the bicycle scene. So it is going to be where the bicycles fall into the mud, the bike rider who's getting attacked by the dog. That's supposed to be the mud. Obviously, haven't really done much. And it looks like the cobblestones from the next scene are wandering into this one as well. So there's that. The next scene is by far the biggest in all of World of Motion. It's not even close. It's absolutely massive. We'll see it right after the little garage area. This is pretty much the last thing I worked on last time I really opened up this model. Little garage area. Then we have let's see, I actually have the vehicle models in here now. But this is where we have the blacksmith shop, the garage, a horse model I definitely didn't make. We're going to have the stock video, which fortunately we have sourced, and it is Creative Commons 0, so I can use it, which is really, really nice. That's going to be playing here when we actually get it into Unreal, so that's kind of nice. Oh, that's right. We have the tram as well. This was not exactly from Blueprints, but I was able to find kind of a similar model that did have blueprints available, so pretty close enough, all told. Man, everything looks so much better with lighting turned on, but it makes it much harder to actually tour. So let's take a look at the traffic jam. This has taken quite a lot of time. There was a lot of time to work through this. So let's do a tour. I'm actually going to hop over here for right now. I have the blueprint for this building directly in front with the green trim. Metropolitan Bank I pretty much had to eyeball, but I think it's reasonably close enough. But, you know, a decent amount of detail that was able to be put in for the leftmost building. There are definitely some other lamp posts, and there's like this little tie-up post that I can definitely model kind of directly on the ground out front there. We have the bank, we have the cars. I basically adapted the bus from one of the car models. You can see it's pretty similar, but then built out the actual, you know, bus parts of it. We have the pharmacist and the parts you're not really supposed to see back there. Hopefully it's pretty hidden when you're actually on ride. And then we have a whole bunch of chickens which aren't yet animated. We're going to have the dude inside of the manhole and like a dozen others. There's just a ton that is going on within this scene. But I'm pretty happy that the majority of it is currently complete. In terms of the other transition scene, we have the tannery directly afterwards. We did have slides for this, for blueprints for this, which did make things a little bit easier. Then we are getting into one of the first airplane scenes. We actually do have the animated video for this, which I'm really happy to have. And also the air show video scene as well. I have, again, the second airplane scene, still a little bit of work left to go. And we have the plane, which isn't like overly detailed, but I did build this out. Again, just pretty much eyeballing. Looks pretty accurate to what was actually there. Then we are getting into the motor car scene. So as we actually transition into the speed tunnels, what's nice about this is that Jason, our tester supreme, is actually locating tons and tons of source video to try to recreate these as they actually existed at the time. So we are very hopeful. I don't know why there is another set of tires that's poking through there. Not a problem, easily deleted, but there will be animated video that should be pretty accurate for each of the decades. And I have recreated each of these. Freewheeling doesn't appear to have been... Actually, wait, Freewheeling may have been a real... No, that was fake. Collier's is real. College Humor actually was a real magazine. That took me like 3 hours to find the right source for that. But that's the original actual logo, and I created Vanity Fair for the 30s. And obviously this is looking really weird with the texturing, but these are going to be the speed tunnels. I'm just going to push through here because there's not that much to see. We're going to have to figure out exactly what we can do for the video. On the plus side, the third speed tunnel actually just uses the video from the movie Tron, whose birthday is actually today, from 1982. Fun fact. So I should be able to pull that pretty easily in high quality. So that's very nice to have. Whoa. Not sure what just happened there. Hang on, let me hop back up. I think Blender decided to get confused about something and it launched down. All right, let's try this again. All right. So then we transition into the final scene, Center Core, the city of the future. For anyone who, well, I'm sure many of you have been on Test Track, this is really where you go from the entry up that 45-degree hill right through this center core. But this was the old city of the future. Obviously, it looks way better with fog and actual lighting associated, but that is also in. And then we go into the finale. Again, a lot of these walls are currently turned off, and then the exit, which was in the initial release. So that's pretty much where we are with the World of Motion right now. So still a long ways to go, but most of the bones are really in there right now. Yeah, so interesting comment about if it went through like electric cars and whatnot. What I would really like to do at some point when most of the core work of the model is done is kind of do my own ideas of how they could have actually updated this if they decided to not go the test track route. Come up with my own concepts about how GM may have adapted this for the future while still keeping it in Future World. I think electric cars definitely would follow that. All right, so that's pretty much World of Motion. I'm just going to switch back. Guess I'll use that as my placeholder slide. Just going to slide into the other model. I was planning on actually showing this in Unreal, but I'm thinking Unreal causes some instability in terms of streaming, which of course didn't appear when I was actually, testing earlier, so lucky me. But that's fine. We are just going to switch this momentarily to make sure I have the correct version of Blender. All right, there we go. So now we should be able to take a look at the land. Some of the scenes aren't really going to be ready because those are only in Unreal, but this will give me a pretty good indication of really where we are with the land. So we're going to give this a quick model. If anyone has any questions in chat, by all means, please go for it. Really sad earlier because the stream was all up, ready to go, had a bunch of people in there, and then it just completely crashed about 5 minutes in. So hopefully people were able to find this link. If not, it'll be available on demand when we need it. All right, just compiling the shaders, and again, we're going to go unlit at this point, but it will give you a good indication. So before we actually head in to listen to the land, let's take a look at where we stand on the pavilion as a whole. So we have the entry area. Not a lot of this has really changed from the initial release that took place back in January. Appreciate that, Grayson. That's why it helps to subscribe for when the stream completely decides to crap out, which is unfortunate. So we have, I guess I don't really have Harvest Theater turned on right now just to save some memory, but a couple things that have changed is that we were able to source the Four Seasons. So the original, I believe, Walt Paraguay versions of this. I think I need to tweak a little bit of the that upper right-hand corner. But generally, we have the original murals that I believe would be located in this area inside of the Good Turn restaurant. Those have been added, which is pretty nice. And to give a bit of a sneak preview, this looks so much better in Unreal. I'm really sad I'm not going to be able to show that. Naturally, in testing, everything went perfectly, but now from Good Turn, you actually can see the Listen to the Land scenes. All right, so let's move forward. We're going to head down the up escalator, and let's take a look at Listen to the Land. Guess I probably don't really need to go through the queue. Let's take a look. So one of the things that, of course, just background work took just hours and hours and hours was actually just cleaning up all the geometry and making everything more or less fit here. Still have a little bit of UV and textural work to do in the corner, but right now we're just using a kind of placeholder Paraguay concept art for the Symphony of the Seed scene. I kind of tried to repaint as much as I could for one of these, but I have such just fragmented little pieces that I don't think it's really good. There are, I believe, the original source concepts floating around somewhere. I just haven't quite been able to find them yet, which is really unfortunate. So hopefully we can track those down at some point. It's pretty obvious to see which of these scenes I have done work on. The left-hand one is my attempt to recreate it just using basically Photoshop, even if it doesn't really go great. I'd much rather have the original source material because it would be more in kind of what we're seeing on the screen currently, much higher detail, as opposed to what I have to paint. But at least that is in progress. The next scene inside of Unreal is the rainforest, and this has mostly been completed, which is really nice to have. Haven't imported the crocodiles yet. As you can see, they still have a little bit of detail work to go. Then we have the desert scene, which is almost entirely complete at this point, which is really great to see. In Unreal, obviously here it's not looking all that great, but that is pretty accurate. Then we have the maybe 40% complete farmhouse scene. So the actual farmhouse has been modeled not from any blueprints, I wasn't able to source those, but by looking at 4K video, because it really hasn't changed, I was able to pretty much recreate that. And to the right, we're going to have the buffalo, which somehow I'm going to be able to source, and all of the wheat and the gophers and prairie dogs, I guess probably. So we'll have those in there. Definitely will have some detail work in the farmhouse area, and hopefully we're going to be able to recreate the actual image as the backdrop behind the farmhouse, because it is really beautiful, a wonderful farm scene. So that is currently in progress with our artists currently. So fingers crossed we'll be able to get that and really make it feel like the scene really does. And yeah, definitely, I really like the good turn, being able to look out over. It's pretty cool seeing that right up there. Obviously, when all the foliage and everything is in, it's actually much harder to see it's there, other than the fact that it's fairly bright. But yeah, it is cool seeing it connected. Then we have the farmhouse for our transition scene. In here, we are going to eventually try to source the kind of similar source, open source video for a lot of the farm scenes that were really shown inside of the farmhouse. I actually found a really interesting post around the HVAC, like the air conditioning scene in this location. Actually has like I think it's like it's corn feed or something coming out, so they tried to make it seem like it would actually be inside of a barn. So I'm going to try to recreate that because that is a really great WED detail from back in the 80s. We have the screens. Now it's just two. I believe originally it was 4 screens because I couldn't quite get them quite that large in this area. And now we're going to transition into the greenhouses. And we're going to stop at the tropical greenhouse. I tried to add whatever detail I really could in this area, so it wasn't just the dome, and it actually had some of the accurate details. Looks like the fans I don't have currently on, but there will be fans in each of those little square areas around. And yeah, it's the tropical dome. We're definitely going to have to put some work in to make sure the frame rates are still going to be kind of halfway decent, because it can be a little iffy because there are just going to be hundreds and hundreds of plants in each of these greenhouses. So definitely some work we're going to have to do in that area. We have the kind of rice cultivation. It's going to be available. And then we transition into the aquaculture. This has changed a little bit, not really massively from when, back in 1982 from now, but somehow find some fish models, and then we have the tubes as well. Then we're going to get into the long greenhouse. This detail work mostly completed. Here are the fans that should have been appearing in the other one. And there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of plants in here too, so we'll see what it really does for the frame rate. Hopefully we can make it pretty well optimized at that point. I'm going to have to poke a hole through this wall directly in front of us now to build a little indoor laboratory area. Then we transitioned out of the long greenhouse. Grayson, this isn't cycles. Right now, this is just basically Eevee, so material preview. When I use cycles for any of the like real nice images I tend to post on Facebook and Twitter, just because with the lighting, obviously everything will always look so much better. And as you can see, that's where the farmhouse is. I need to tweak the exactly where those walls are going to appear right now. Now, this is going to be an interesting area because there is just a ton of detail work also in that Paraguay style, much like those murals back from the beginning part of the ride. We're going to have to do a whole lot of work just to build those in. And what I also really find interesting is just how tight all of the locations are here, because if you just pop right through this wall, I guess it's currently off, but this is Kitchen Cabaret. It's like directly on the other side of that wall. There are the doors for Kitchen Cabaret. Here's the whole lobby area, all very tight for tolerances. And then we are complete. So yeah, that's kind of where we are with the land and world of motion right now. So I'm going to show a little bit more in Unreal because it really is nice to kind of see just in the flesh. Actually, one more thing I want to talk about is we have some reasonably high quality photography from Jim Sarno's really fantastic fountain in the middle. It's just, sculpting isn't really my work base, isn't my wheelhouse inside of Blender. So eventually I'll get around to this. I really want to make sure I can do it justice. It's just going to be a lot of sculpting of some very specific organic shapes, and I just want to make sure it really turns out well. So that's going to be ongoing at some point, just not really anytime soon, unfortunately. Another thing to really talk through, well, two other things, is we recently, thanks to Chris Lane and also Progress City, both of which were able to locate some details around a craft the pavilion sponsor. It's like an old horse-drawn cart that was actually directly in this location next to the restroom area. So hopefully I'll be able to model that in just to fill this little bit of dead space with what was actually there. That's pretty nice. And a couple of folks are also working on recreating the remaining farmers market signs instead of just the white background placeholder signs. Hopefully we're actually going to get the proper ones for, I'm trying to remember what it is, ice cream. No, sorry, that's ice cream. These are beverages. We have sandwiches a little bit farther down. A couple other ones. I think it's like potato if I don't have that in there yet. But yeah, hopefully we can get those signs actually in. So land is getting there. Of course, we have to show the great murals up at the top. Took me forever, but very happy with how that turned out. Not too bad. So yeah, just to recap, so in terms of future releases, nothing is really going to be coming out any immediately time soon, just because a lot of things are kind of in process right now. Unreal Engine is still only in early access version 2. I'm hoping there's going to be a whole lot of optimization that will make frame rates better, video memory also improved, and hopefully not crash Streamlabs, which was quite a bummer earlier. Land, next we're really going to be working on those details. If we can get the actual source concept for the murals for Symphony of the Seed, all of those, any blueprints will really help me out, so hoping to have a bit of a miracle in there, but I'll keep on chugging on that anyway. World of Motion, we have a good deal more work. A lot of it is on characters. Then we're going to get into the whole animation side, making things move, programming, and all of that. In terms of immediate next steps, not really sure. Probably going to be working on, however I possibly can, going to work on either finishing up those in progress, World of Motion and Land, but I wouldn't be surprised if I end up just picking up an entirely new ride, because I know I can make a huge amount of progress, and then we can really work on that. So yeah, that is pretty much where we stand for the project. Hopefully next time I do a stream, I actually will have a little bit of better technical luck, because this is a couple streams in a row where things have gone a little bit pear-shaped, but that is okay. That's probably going to do it for us today. Thank you all for joining, and as always, you can follow us at futureport82.com. I'm also on Twitter and Facebook, Futureport82, pretty much everywhere. Hope you all have a wonderful